Hello again, Searchlight fans, and welcome to the second video about Searchlight. After the installation is complete, I now want to show you briefly how you can run your first audit with Searchlight. I forgot to mention one thing with the install side. I briefly want to show you that you can do exactly the same what we've done in the first video about installation, of course, on any virtual machine. I've got Searchlight running here on an Amazon machine and likewise on a Azure VM. So that's no problem at all. The process is effectively exactly the same as we did locally here. The only thing I found simpler is rather than circumnavigating all the download restrictions on a brand new instance of a VM, I simply copy and paste the MSI file over before I install it. I just personally found that simpler. That's just a little PS to the first video, but let's get started. We've got Searchlight installed. We're picking up where we started off, and we want to audit a Sharepoint site in this case. So we've got here a Sharepoint site, which is a little test site for us, which got a few directories in. One contains a lot of different PDFs. Some are searchable, some aren't. Some are large files. The number in brackets is the number of pages, so that's just a little help for us. And then we've got a little folder here with mixed documents. Again, PDFs, some searchable, some not. A bitmap, a TIFF file, a JPEG, all sorts of things. So that's our little test set. And like most people, we don't really exactly know what's in there. We haven't really counted them. I know that SharePoint counts the documents for you, but still, in terms of OCRing, we don't really know. So what we want to do is we want to run an audit on this particular site to find out exactly down to the level of pages of what we've got there. We do that by starting to add a new library with that plus button here, and then it runs through a little visit, which we're going to do now. All we need here, we should have done that before, is basically go to our documents, copy and paste the address line, and simply paste, no, not yet, we call that trial audit. And this is going to be on SharePoint Online. We add the location, and this is where we paste our web address. And in our case, we simply log in with my credentials here. You may have a service account set up for that. Excuse the slow typing. And Searchlight then attempts to connect, and if the connection is successful, it just jumps into the location list here. You can, by the way, add as many locations as you like here. If you've got multiple, you can just drop them from a table in here. As long as each location is on a separate line, that's fine, and as long as the credentials are the same. If you use modern authentication, you will need to apply the corresponding credentials here, but we're not going to cover that in this short video. So we've now set up our our library, and in this case we only want to do an audit. I've got a 4-core machine here, so we're going to use 4 cores to do that. The number of cores simply indicates of how many documents are processed by Searchlight in parallel. Moving swiftly through, we want to see all the different file types we've got in this SharePoint site. Well, we don't need to do that really for an audit. We don't need to archive anything because audit simply looks at the files, at their status, at their searchability. It doesn't change any of the files at all, so we can whiz through this and cover that in the next video when we run a proper OCR. Now, we now have a job appearing here. It hasn't run yet. The searchability therefore cannot be established, and let's just run this audit. You see, the first thing Searchlight does is enumerating through all the different folders there, simply counting the documents. We've obviously got a total here of 135, and then, as you can see in the background, it runs through each and every of these documents one by one, and within each document it runs through each and every page and establishes whether or not that page is fully searchable already, and that is done by looking for an invisible text layer which search engines can find. If that is present, it is deemed as fully searchable. If it's not present, it is deemed as an image-only file. Now, PDF files have the obscurity sometimes that they may be composed out of several documents, and they may be partly searchable because they could be some fully searchable components to it, and there could be some image PDF components to a file. Now it's going through, it doesn't take that long, but depending on the size of the documents, and some of them have many pages, so Searchlight would basically need to iterate through each of these pages. Once our audit is complete, if you double click into the job, you get a status window here, and it gives you very detailed information about your SharePoint site. In this case, we've got 132 PDF documents in here, of which 57 are image-only PDFs, and 20 are partially searchable and 48 are fully searchable. More importantly, it gives you the number of pages, because the number of documents from an OCR perspective is more or less irrelevant. Really and truly, we're thinking in pages because each page needs to be OCR'd, and that is where the workload is. We've got a total of 8 image pages, which are image documents which have 8 pages altogether, giving us an overall searchability currently of 71.1%. Now the beauty is that Searchlight creates a little audit report for you to make that very presentable if you want to discuss the state of your libraries and sites. You can do that here. In our particular case, where we just looked at, we've got 45% image-only pages, partially and fully searchable. You can see here, and as I said, the numbers are the same. There is still about 4,100 pages which remain to be OCR to make that particular SharePoint site fully searchable. Now the same logic would apply in Searchlight if your file location would not be in SharePoint Online. It could be in your local file system, it could be in a SharePoint on-prem setting, or in an Azure storage. The process would be exactly the same, just when you set up your library, you would change the settings here, and that put, of course, a different address to it. And that is already it from starting up Searchlight to running your first audit. Thank you for watching.